what are we? FIS is the partnership between fishing and seafood experts. And our job is really to lead practical innovation projects to help make positive change on the water, as we say. You'll see here, these are our board partners, but also we have an independent technical advisory committee that includes fishermen, scientists, NGOs, and our projects cover all aspects of our industry: gear, technology, ecosystem impacts, industry-led self-sampling, for example. And I just want to be really clear that I am not here representing fishing or representing our industry. And the reason being that it's impossible. There's no such thing as a standard fisherman. And I wanted to show you this kind of information that is freely available online from the fantastic Marine Scotland Analytical Unit, but also the Seafish Economics Department. Because if you're not a fishy person, I think this stuff might be quite interesting. It really shows you what a complex but fascinating business seafood is. And I do mean sort of a group of businesses. Scotland has got one of the largest fishing fleets in Europe, and that goes from your many single-handed potters through to some of the largest pelagic vessels that you'll find in the world. So we're talking about, as you'll see here, in 2020, we had over 2,000 active fishing vessels. So you could think of those as 2,000 sort of independent businesses. So the point here is that if you're talking inshore, offshore, large, small, export, domestic market, it's really difficult then to understand what the impact of fishing is on climate, or what our role is to ensure things are better. But the one thing that everyone along that supply chain will agree with is that Scottish seafood is and has to be part of a healthy and sustainable food system. But of course, there's so much to be done to reduce the impacts on the environment and climate, threats to blue carbon, habitat, biodiversity loss. And in fact, the University of Aberdeen and our industry partners, we were talking about climate smart fisheries, to be honest, before I'd heard of the term. We had a FIS project looking at the implications of climate on fisheries. Because of course, the climate emergency is affecting fisheries now in terms of fish size, distribution, and for many businesses, it's a concern now, not sort of nebulous in the future. And I was just laughing because there's a very well-known Scottish fisherman who had tweeted the other night. He was like, I found this beast. What is it doing on the northeast of Orkney in a westerly gale? And it was a triggerfish. And we're having, which are much usually seen in the channel. And of course, it's these kind of conversations that we've been having again and again. And while it can be interesting, obviously, in terms of business and political ramifications, you know, they are huge. But of course, the interest isn't just one-sided. It's not just about the effects on fishing, but what the effects of the industry on what is our carbon footprint, for example. So at the very start of 2020, seems a completely different world, of course, now, but we asked all our stakeholders across the board, what are those questions that we really need to ask ourselves as an industry to improve the way we work, whether it's economically, yes, but environmentally and socially. And across the board, there was this need to understand what the footprint of fishing was, as well as better ways to collect and share data. So since then, there has been such a large number of reports and reviews looking into this issue. And I have to say that the FIS itself, we commissioned something to try and increase our own knowledge and to help us plan our own work in terms of vessel emissions. But I think there's, from a number of these reports, it's seen that it's not entirely easy. And these are some points that I brought out from a number of reports from different players. Metrics matter. Why I always think of the sort of apples and pears pitfalls. Yes, most of Scotland's fishing fleets could be seen as carbon efficient in one way or another, depending on what you're looking at. So larger vessels, yes, tend to produce more emissions, they spend more time at sea, but in terms of food production per unit of emissions, these can be seen as better. Yeah, and you know, we've heard a little about and seen where fish come in that graph between land-based and others. And Aberdeen University have done a lot of work to show how seafood production has a lower carbon footprint than land, and you know, Scottish cod pelagic can be seen as sort of the best of them all. But straight away you get into that sort of whataboutism, or where I come from, the whataboutery. What does that mean? You know, is it community links versus export, onshore jobs? You know, what does it actually mean? And more, the reports are pointing to knowledge and data gaps, and often are asking us to collect more data, do more research. Do we have the time to do that? And do we have the money? So this is a funny rainbow diagram that I wanted to show you. It's our responsibility as FIS to look for some of the more practical, impactful ways forward. What can we do to support skippers, for example, in reducing emissions? And our current project that we're all working with many different partners on, both in and out of fishing, has resulted in this sort of rainbow understanding. We were trying to work out what is it that would help in a practical way. And what we know is that more informed, precise fishing and fishing for the market can reduce emissions. It can actually improve safety and quality. And of course, you save money on fuel and you can help businesses flourish. So how do we do this? Well, digitalization, maximizing the use of the data and how we transfer that data and share verifiable data along the supply chain, and making sure the catching sector is absolutely involved in collecting verifiable and transparent data to answer management questions such as carbon footprint. And actually, we're on the brink of embarking on a new pilot project, which will look at key data elements to try and enable more accurate understanding of footprint calculations. And of course, all of this is done in partnership with the fishermen themselves and fishing businesses themselves, as we sort of have built into everything that we do in FIS. It's industry participation and knowledge built in from the very beginning, leaving no fleet segment behind. There's no point in only working with the easy guys. So there's an understanding in the catching sector that fully digitalized fisheries is coming, and we need to be ahead of the curve. But something I wanted to share with you really, and I'll see if this works if the gremlins are here. There's times that we know we need to play catch up with what's out there. And I was amazed to find out that Scotland is producing more satellites than anywhere outside of California. And there was an amazing amount of space sector expertise in Scotland. And we wanted to understand how maybe one of these newest industries could support one of the oldest. I'm going to try and play this. Chris, shout if it doesn't work.
The fishing industry already relies on weather forecast information from satellites. But imagine if you could easily access daily maps of marine information over a large area, like sea surface temperature or phytoplankton concentration and wind speed and direction. You can.
Forced error. I think the audio is the only challenge. It's a little quiet.
Okay, listen, I'll stop.
Large scale the fishing industry.
I'll stop that there. If the audio, sorry, more gremlins. Really, it was an example of us trying to find new ways to share information and to show that the fishing industry is an exciting industry to kind of work with, to try and communicate and future-proof how sustainable fisheries can be part of a sustainable food system. So just things like that little animation are quite new for us. For some of your sectors, that might be kind of old hat, but it was a bit of a breakthrough for us. And just to finish, really, there's a big piece of work is the Scottish smart trawl system. And this is the real cutting edge technology at sea. So smart trawl is a highly innovative system that is in development. And it's to allow skippers to select the fish that they want to catch. It's the brainchild of Professor Paul Fernandez at Aberdeen Uni, and it really puts Scotland at the forefront of an innovative response to waste caused by discarding unwanted fish. And when I say waste, I do mean it in all ways, in biologically as well as economic, and of course it's illegal. And it's a stereo camera with lighting in the trawl extension, which takes high quality images as the fish enter the cod end. It has an onboard computer system which will allow a skipper to make decisions in real time as to what the size and species of fish that he wants to collect. Now, we have a long way to go, but the component pieces of this are being tested at sea around Shetland right now. And of course, the industry is also looking at energy efficient vessels, and we want to understand what are the alternative fuels, the hull designs, the engines that would work in a Scottish context, that is realistic, won't leave people behind, and will work in a Scottish context, given how dynamic and busy the seas that we work in are. So this was a 10 minutes that I was talking about how innovation can help Scotland as part of the climate emergency and as part of a food system. But for us, innovation isn't just about kit, it's also about new ways of communicating. And I think that's really key here. If we are to make a just transition for the fishing industry, then we really need to understand what we're asking all of those individual businesses to do, all those onshore sectors, everything, you know, your secondary, your primary processors, your transportation, your refrigeration, all the way along the supply chain. What is it that we're asking them to do for us? For a just transition, there needs to be funding. We need to really understand businesses in a Scottish context. And I always think there needs to be a bit of compassion as well, because, you know, am I being asked to fundamentally change how I make a living now in a scarily short term? Well, no, I'm not. So I do think we need to rethink what we expect of others, how we communicate to them, and really think of our fishing industry as being part of the solution and a sustainable food system.